Joining us for legal insight following the Justice Department's charges against the suspect in the murder of those two Israeli embassy workers in Washington, D.C. is trial attorney and founding partner at Rosenthal, Calabas and Therian, Jeremy Rosenthal. Good to have you with us today. Wednesday night's attack is being investigated as a hate crime, and more charges are expected, in addition to the first-degree murder of foreign officials and related firearm charges. With what we know so far about the attack, do you expect there to be more charges?
I certainly think that the federal government is going to throw their entire weight at this case. Certainly, you've already seen the most severe of charges that can possibly be brought, and that is first-degree murder with the aggravating factors that it is a hate crime, that it's an act of terror, and that it's targeted at foreign emissaries. That carries with it the death penalty. You could also see some additional charges due to the transportation of the firearm, if there's any other associates that are involved, if he made any other type of hate speech or things that perhaps that he communicated. You never want to rule anything out, but certainly the federal government has made it clear that they're going to go after this person and put the entire weight of the federal government on prosecuting him.
And if it is found to be a hate crime, which is under investigation, how could that impact the sentencing?
If it's a hate crime, then it opens up, and if it's an act of terror, or if it's targeted at a foreign emissary, it opens up the death penalty to this prosecution. And what that would mean would be, if he were convicted of these murders, then there's a sentencing phase where the jury would have to consider varying factors. They would have to weigh some of those aggravating factors against some of the things that we would consider or call mitigation. That could be potentially mental illness. That could be potentially difficulty in the upbringing. There's no such thing as a simple capital murder case where a death penalty is on the table. In those instances, both the prosecution and the defense really put the defendant's full life on trial. We're still learning a lot about this, about the shooter in this case. We're still learning, and we don't know much about social media. We know that he put a manifesto out there. We know that he said that this is for Palestine, that this is for Gaza after he shot. So certainly we understand some of those aspects of it. But what we don't know is, did he fall down some kind of internet wormhole? And if so, is that mitigating? Is that not mitigating? That's where some of these bigger questions are going to turn in my mind as to whether or not he's ultimately sentenced to death.
As you mentioned, there's really not a lot that's known yet, but with what we know so far, what other arguments, if there are any more, might the suspect raise in his defense?
It sounds like these murders are pretty cold-blooded. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of wiggle room he's going to have. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like Luigi Mangione's case, where that was caught on video. So it's not me, it is really not going to work. Also, it's self-defense is really not going to work. Where that leaves you as a criminal defendant is that's going to leave you with his mental state, which very hard to really escape all the charges based on that alone. So what you're really looking at is fundamentally what you would call a mitigation case, meaning that explaining to the jury, explaining to the judge why leniency is potential, or why leniency is appropriate here. And that can be related to mental health. It could be related to drug abuse. It could be related even to their upbringing. Those are the types of things I would expect the defense to really develop. And it's going to take a lot of time to do this. This is still a very fresh thing. And the authorities still don't even know the depth of this man's, the reaches of the tentacles of his crime. We still don't know.
Yeah. And in terms of precedent, what approaches from the prosecution have been effective in combating some of those arguments from the defense in such a case as this?
You've seen a really big shift in federal capital punishment. You remember last year that President Biden pardoned 39 or commuted the sentences of 39 death row inmates in federal in the federal system. So with the Trump's administration coming in and taking sort of a 180 position on this, You would think that the government, that the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to really sort of dig in and kind of look and really hone in on some of these aggravating factors. They've made it very clear in multiple instances that they're not going to tolerate anti-Semitism, that they're not going to tolerate people who are targeted because of their religion, because of their faith. And it really ratchets things up because the United States has to be a place, specifically in Washington, D.C., where foreign countries and their governments and their personnel can be safe. We wouldn't like it if if we sent an ambassador to another country and a staff, they were murdered or executed in some type of hate crime because they're American. We wouldn't like that one bit. So in many ways, I think the administration is definitely going to sharpen their knives and focus on those aspects. And you saw Ms. Pirro talking very aggressively, very assertively. They're not messing around here. They're executing multiple search warrants. They're going to get everything that there is to get. And as we talked about at the very beginning of our discussion, they're probably going to bring extra charges as if that were necessary at this point. Because again, the most serious ones are already on the table.
Certainly. What will you be watching for next?
Just to see some of the developments, to see what the social media says, to see what his phones say if they release those things. Was this person falling down a wormhole of some type? Is this a person who was radicalized some way, who, if there was a shift in his tone, if there was a shift in his politics or his beliefs, or even a shift in his mentality, if coworkers kind of feel like he had become unhinged or if he had changed, if there's some other underlying mental illness going on here, or whether this is just a person who is politically motivated and calculated towards this type of act of terror.
So many factors at play, so many nuances here, and with so many ramifications, really, socially, politically, and legally, of course. Thank you so much for your time today, Jeremy Rosenthal. Always good to speak with you.
Have a great day.